Most people think leadership is about power, authority, or having the right answers. But the truth is, leadership has never been about titles or positions. It's about inspiring people to believe in something bigger than themselves. The most extraordinary leaders throughout history, whether in business, politics, or social change, didn't simply tell people what to do. They gave people a reason to act, a cause worth following, and a vision worth committing to. The difference between good leaders and great leaders lies in their ability to inspire. Good leaders may direct and manage, but great leaders ignite passion. They create movements. They spark loyalty that goes beyond obligation. And the way they do it is not by focusing on what they do or how they do it, but by first answering why they exist, why their cause matters, and why others should care. Today, I want to share with you how great leaders inspire action, not through authority, but through clarity of purpose. Because when people believe in why you do what you do, they will follow you with commitment, with energy, and with trust. Great leaders don't begin with a list of strategies, metrics, or action steps. They begin with something far more powerful, something that resonates deep inside the human heart. They begin with why. Too often, organizations and individuals start by explaining what they do or how they do it. They describe the features of their product, the efficiency of their process, or the uniqueness of their service. And while those things matter, they rarely inspire loyalty. They rarely spark genuine connection. Because people are not moved by information alone, they are moved by meaning. The greatest leaders understand this truth, and that is why they always begin by communicating their cause, their purpose, their belief. Think about some of the most transformative leaders in history. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't stand on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and declare, "I have a plan." He didn't begin with bullet points or policies. He began with a dream. He shared his vision of a world that did not yet exist, but could. That dream, that why, ignited a movement that still echoes decades later. The same is true in business. Apple under Steve Jobs didn't just say, "We make computers." That was the what. Instead, they said, "We believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently." That was the why. And because of that, millions didn't just buy a product, they bought into a cause. Starting with why doesn't just inspire followers, it attracts people who believe in the same vision. When people connect with your purpose, they don't just show up for the paycheck or the product. They show up because they feel like they belong. They feel like they are part of something larger than themselves. And when people believe they belong, they give their energy, their creativity, and their loyalty willingly. That's what separates compliance from commitment. Compliance is when people do what they're told. Commitment is when people do it because they believe it. But starting with why also demands courage. It means leaders must be vulnerable enough to declare what they stand for, even if it is unpopular or misunderstood at first. It requires clarity because a vague or shallow why will never resonate. And it requires consistency because people are always watching whether the actions align with the words. When leaders live their why, it becomes contagious. People don't just hear it, they feel it. In every team, organization, or community, there will always be challenges, setbacks, and obstacles. The difference between those who endure and those who collapse often comes down to whether they had a clear why. Purpose provides resilience. When the goal is only about numbers or short-term wins, people burn out. But when the mission is about something meaningful, people find the strength to persevere. That is why great leaders always return to the why, especially in moments of crisis. We sometimes think of leadership as convincing or persuading others to act. But true leadership is about creating the conditions where people are inspired to act on their own. When leaders articulate their why, they no longer have to push people forward. Instead, they create a pull so strong that people move willingly. That's why the most extraordinary organizations don't struggle to recruit or retain talent. People are drawn to them because they want to be part of something bigger. The lesson is simple, yet profound. If you want to inspire action, don't start by telling people what you do or how you do it. Start by telling them why. Share the reason you exist and the belief that drives you and the vision you are striving toward. Because it is not the product that creates loyalty, it is the purpose. It is not the process that inspires action, it is the passion behind it. And when people believe in your why, they will give you not just their effort, but their hearts. Inspiration and motivation may sound similar, but they live in entirely different worlds. Motivation is external. It often relies on rewards, punishments, or incentives. It can spark action in the short term, but like a matchstick, it burns out quickly. Inspiration, on the other hand, is internal. It's the fire that lights within people when they connect to a belief, a cause, or a purpose that truly matters to them. And once lit, that fire doesn't fade easily. That is why great leaders focus less on pushing people through motivation and more on awakening inspiration, because inspiration lasts longer than motivation. Think of motivation as fuel you constantly need to add, like gas in a car. The moment you stop supplying it, progress halts. Leaders who only motivate spend their time trying to push people with bonuses, recognition, or fear of consequences. It works, but only temporarily. Eventually, people get tired, rewards lose their shine, and fear loses its grip. But inspiration works differently. Inspiration is like charging a battery with renewable energy. It keeps going because the energy source comes from within. People who are inspired don't just need to be reminded to keep going, they want to keep going. Their actions are sustained by belief rather than by pressure. We can see this difference in the workplace all the time. A manager might motivate a team with financial incentives to hit a sales target, and yes, the team might hit the number. But once the incentive is gone, so is the effort. Contrast that with a leader who inspires the team by showing them the deeper meaning behind their work, connecting their role to a purpose that impacts lives. When employees feel that their work matters, when they see themselves as part of something significant, they don't need to be pushed. They show up with energy because they want to contribute. Great leaders know that inspiration isn't about speeches filled with charisma or dramatic gestures. It's about authenticity. It's about aligning words with actions so people can trust that the belief being shared is real. Inspiration requires leaders to communicate a clear vision and to embody it themselves. When people see that their leader genuinely believes in the cause, they feel it too. And that feeling translates into action, not because they have to, but because they choose to. Another important truth is that inspiration creates longevity in relationships, whether in business, community, or movements. Motivation often leads to transactional relationships. You do this, you get that. But inspiration leads to transformational relationships. People commit not only with their effort, but with their identity. They say, "This is not just what I do, this is who I am." And that sense of belonging, that identity, is incredibly powerful. It's the reason why some companies retain loyal employees and customers for decades, while others struggle to keep them for months. Even in moments of adversity, inspiration proves to be the stronger force. Motivated people may quit when rewards disappear or challenges grow too heavy. Inspired people endure because their belief is bigger than the obstacle. They understand why their struggle matters, and that gives them resilience. Leaders who inspire don't need to remind people to keep pushing. They remind them why it's worth it. And when the why is strong enough, people will find the how. If we look at history, the leaders who changed the course of nations and industries were not merely motivators. They were inspirers. They didn't just rally people around short-term goals, they connected them to long-term visions. That is why their impact outlived their lifetimes. The movements they sparked continued because the people who followed them weren't chasing rewards. They were living a belief. The choice every leader faces is simple. Do you want compliance that fades with time or commitment that endures? Motivation will get you the first, but only inspiration will give you the second. When you inspire, you unlock something deeper within people, something that fuels them long after you've left the room. And that is why inspiration always lasts longer than motivation. People often believe that success in leadership comes from having the best product, the most advanced technology, or the most efficient process. While those things matter, they are not the real reason people choose to follow, buy, or stay loyal. The truth is, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What you do simply proves your belief. How you do it shows your discipline. But the why, the purpose, the cause, the belief, this is what truly inspires people to act. If you look at some of the world's most admired organizations, you'll see the same pattern. Apple doesn't just sell electronics. Nike doesn't just sell shoes. Tesla doesn't just sell cars. If it were only about the product, they would be no different from dozens of competitors. But what makes them stand out is the fact that people connect emotionally with their why. Apple stands for challenging the status quo and empowering creativity. Nike stands for unleashing human potential. Tesla stands for accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. These beliefs are not features on a product sheet, yet they are the very reason millions of people proudly associate with these brands. The same applies to leaders. People don't follow you because of your job title or the list of responsibilities on your resume. They follow you because they believe in what you believe. A leader who only talks about what needs to be done might get results for a while, but a leader who communicates why it matters will build loyalty that lasts. It's the difference between someone saying, "I work here," and someone saying, "I belong here." One is transactional, the other is emotional. And emotion drives human behavior far more powerfully than logic alone. When leaders communicate their why clearly, they give people a reason to care. Without it, work becomes just another task, product becomes just another object, and goals become just another number. But when the why is present, everything changes. A product becomes a symbol. Work becomes a contribution. Goals become a mission. That shift is what turns ordinary companies into movements and ordinary leaders into visionaries. It's important to understand that people don't connect with a why because it's clever or well marketed. They connect with it because it's authentic. A leader or organization can't simply invent a cause for the sake of appearances. People are incredibly skilled at sensing insincerity. The why has to be genuine. It must come from a deeply held belief. And when it does, people can feel it. They might not be able to explain why they are drawn to a leader or brand, but they sense the authenticity behind it, and that is enough. This principle also explains why great leadership creates a sense of belonging. Human beings are wired for connection. We long to be part of something larger than ourselves, something that gives our lives meaning. When leaders clearly communicate why they exist and what they believe in, they invite others to join them on that journey. That sense of shared belief is what binds teams together through challenges and fuels organizations through change. Think of it this way: if you only tell people what you do, you give them information. If you tell them how you do it, you give them instruction. But if you tell them why you do it, you give them inspiration. Information may educate people, instruction may guide them, but only inspiration compels them to take action from the heart. That is why so many businesses struggle to differentiate themselves when they compete only on features or price. They are missing the deeper connection that only a why can create. Leaders who live and communicate their why consistently unlock a powerful advantage: loyalty. Customers return not because of discounts, but because of belief. Employees stay not because of perks, but because they feel purpose. Followers commit not because they are told to, but because they choose to. And in a world where people are constantly being offered alternatives, true loyalty is priceless. At the end of the day, the most successful leaders and organizations prove this truth over and over again. It's not about what you do or how you do it. It's about why you do it. And when your why is clear, authentic, and consistent, people don't just buy your product or follow your orders. They buy into your belief. They follow your vision. And that is the foundation of lasting impact. Trust is not built in a single moment of inspiration or in a grand announcement from a stage. Trust is built slowly, consistently, and through the clarity of purpose that leaders communicate over time. People don't commit to leaders simply because they have authority. They commit because they believe the leader's intentions are genuine. And that belief only comes when words and actions align repeatedly. Great leaders understand that clarity and consistency of purpose form the foundation of trust, and without trust, there can be no real leadership. When a leader communicates a clear purpose, it eliminates confusion. Unclear or inconsistent messages create doubt, and doubt weakens commitment. Imagine a leader who one day speaks passionately about putting people first, but the next day makes decisions that prioritize profits at the expense of employees. The inconsistency sends a message louder than words. The purpose is negotiable. In contrast, when a leader's decisions consistently reflect their stated purpose, even when it is difficult, people take notice. They see integrity. They feel safe to believe. Trust grows not because of slogans on a wall, but because of consistent evidence in behavior. Clarity of purpose is equally important because people can't align with something they don't understand. A leader who struggles to explain why the team or organization exists will always struggle to inspire loyalty. People don't want vague promises. They want to know the deeper reason behind their work. When leaders take the time to articulate a purpose that is clear, meaningful, and inspiring, it gives everyone a compass. That compass guides decisions, unites efforts, and reassures people that they are moving in the right direction, even when the path is difficult. Think of trust as a bank account. Every consistent action aligned with purpose is a deposit. Every decision that reinforces the belief builds the balance. Over time, people develop confidence that the leader will act predictably and honorably. But when leaders betray their stated purpose, even in small ways, it feels like a withdrawal. Too many withdrawals and the account goes empty. Once trust is broken, it is incredibly hard to rebuild. That is why great leaders guard their consistency fiercely. They know trust is their most valuable currency. Consider how this plays out in organizations people admire. Companies like Patagonia have built enormous trust, not just with customers, but with employees and the public, because their actions consistently reflect their purpose. Their mission to protect the environment isn't just a tagline. It shows up in their supply chain, their products, and even their willingness to ask customers to buy less. The clarity of their purpose and their relentless consistency earn them a level of trust competitors struggle to match. Trust also creates a powerful sense of safety. When people trust their leaders, they feel safe to take risks, speak openly, and innovate. They know that mistakes won't be punished harshly, but will be treated as opportunities to learn. That sense of psychological safety unleashes creativity and commitment. Without trust, people withhold their best ideas and energy, fearing judgment or betrayal. The consistency of purpose is what reassures them that the leader has their back, that the vision won't shift with every challenge, and that they are part of something stable and meaningful. The absence of trust, on the other hand, creates cultures of fear and disengagement. When leaders say one thing and do another, employees stop believing. They may still comply, but compliance without belief is fragile and shallow. Trust cannot be demanded, it must be earned, patiently, through every decision and every interaction. And when it is earned, it becomes the glue that holds people together through both triumphs and trials. At its core, trust is the human response to clarity and consistency of purpose. It doesn't matter how talented, charismatic, or visionary a leader may be. Without trust, their influence will always be limited. People don't follow leaders they cannot trust because trust is the foundation of belonging. Great leaders inspire action not by forcing compliance, but by creating trust so strong that people willingly give their loyalty. And that trust is built the same way every time, by being clear about the purpose and consistent in living it, day after day, choice after choice. Leadership has never been about authority, titles, or the corner office. Authority may give someone the power to tell others what to do, but it does not guarantee commitment or loyalty. True leadership is about service. It is about putting others before yourself, about creating conditions where people can thrive, and about ensuring that the team, not the individual, comes first. The greatest leaders are those who understand that their role is not to be served, but to serve. When people think of traditional leadership, they often imagine someone in charge, someone giving orders, someone who has control. But history shows us that the most effective leaders are the ones who take on the responsibility of care. They see leadership as stewardship, not ownership. They don't ask, "What can I get from this position?" but rather, "What can I give?" This mindset transforms the dynamic between leader and follower. People don't follow because they have to. They follow because they know their leader has their best interests at heart. A leader who serves is a leader who listens. They take time to understand the needs, fears, and aspirations of the people they lead. They don't dismiss concerns or impose decisions without empathy. Instead, they create an environment where people feel valued and heard. When individuals feel that level of respect, their natural response is trust and commitment. They give more, not because of pressure, but because they want to contribute to a cause led by someone who genuinely cares. Service also requires sacrifice. Leaders who inspire action are often the first to give up comfort for the sake of their people. They are the ones who stay late to ensure the team has what it needs, who take responsibility when things go wrong, and who share credit generously when things go right. These sacrifices may go unnoticed in the short term, but over time, they create an unshakable bond. People are far more willing to go the extra mile when they see that their leader is willing to walk that mile alongside them. Think about leaders in moments of crisis. Those who cling to authority often resort to blame, control, or fear to maintain order. But those who see leadership as service step forward to protect their people. They shield their teams from unnecessary harm, they communicate honestly, and they lead by example. In doing so, they build resilience not just in themselves, but in everyone around them. Their people feel safe, valued, and empowered to act. That is the essence of servant leadership. It multiplies strength rather than hoards it. Service-oriented leadership also creates cultures of belonging. When leaders make decisions based not on personal gain but on the well-being of the group, they signal that everyone matters. That sense of inclusivity fosters collaboration and loyalty. People don't just show up to do a job, they show up because they feel they are part of a family, a community, a mission. And when people feel that way, they don't need constant management. They manage themselves out of commitment to each other and to the vision they share. The irony is that leaders who chase authority often lose influence, while leaders who choose service often gain it. Influence is not given freely to those who demand it, but it flows naturally to those who earn it through selflessness. Service earns respect. Service builds trust. Service inspires loyalty. And loyalty is the currency that sustains leadership long after the authority of a title fades away. At the deepest level, leadership as service taps into a basic human truth. We are wired to respond to care. When leaders serve, they show that they value people over power, meaning over metrics, and purpose over position. This approach does not weaken leadership, it strengthens it. Because the leader who serves is not standing above their people, but standing with them. And when people see that, they will follow not out of obligation, but out of choice, with hearts fully committed to the journey ahead. Great leaders do not measure their impact only by numbers on a chart or quarterly results. While results matter, they are not the ultimate sign of leadership. The true measure of leadership is the ability to create movements, shifts in behavior, culture, and belief that outlive the leader's direct involvement. Great leaders know that their role is not just to achieve outcomes, but to ignite something within people that continues to grow long after they are gone. Movements are born when leaders give people a reason to rally together. Results might capture attention, but movements capture hearts. Results may bring temporary recognition, but movements bring lasting change. When a leader inspires a movement, they tap into something universal, the human desire to belong to a cause greater than ourselves. It is this belonging that transforms individual actions into collective momentum. History is filled with examples of leaders who built movements rather than chasing short-term results. Nelson Mandela did not simply aim for political power. He sought to unite a divided nation around forgiveness and reconciliation. Mother Teresa did not chase organizational growth. She lived a life of service that inspired countless others to dedicate themselves to compassion. In business, companies like Apple didn't just sell products. They sparked a movement around creativity, simplicity, and challenging the status quo. These leaders and organizations created identities, not just outcomes. People didn't just participate, they proudly declared, "I am part of this." The difference between achieving results and creating movements lies in purpose. Results are transactional. They answer the question, what did we accomplish? Movements are transformational. They answer the question, who have we become? Great leaders focus on the latter. They set out to change the way people think, feel, and act, not just to hit a target, but to build something that grows organically through shared belief. Another defining feature of movements is that they are self-sustaining. A leader who only drives results must constantly push, direct, and monitor progress. But a leader who sparks a movement creates a pull so strong that people carry the cause forward on their own. Movements are fueled by passion, not pressure. People take ownership because they see themselves as part of the mission, not just as contributors to a project. That ownership makes the impact far more enduring than anything that could be managed through authority alone. Great leaders also understand that creating a movement requires humility. Movements are never about the leader, they are about the belief that unites people. Leaders may light the spark, but the movement grows because countless others fan the flame. This humility ensures that the movement does not collapse when the leader steps aside. Instead, it expands because the belief has taken root in the hearts of many. There is also a deep resilience in movements. Results can be disrupted by competition, economic shifts, or external forces. Movements, however, endure because they are powered by shared identity and values. Even in the face of setbacks, people remain committed because they are not just protecting an outcome, they are protecting who they are. That is why movements have the power to change societies, industries, and generations. Leaders who focus only on results may win for a moment, but leaders who build movements create legacies. Results fade, movements echo. Results are remembered as statistics, movements are remembered as stories. When people talk about great leaders decades later, they rarely recall the exact figures achieved. They remember how the leader made them feel, what they stood for, and how they changed the way people saw the world. That is the lasting imprint of a movement. At its essence, the difference is simple. Results answer the question of success, while movements answer the question of significance. Great leaders inspire action not by chasing numbers, but by sparking causes that people willingly make their own. And when a leader creates a movement, they don't just achieve something meaningful in their lifetime. They plant seeds that continue to grow, shaping lives and futures long after they are gone.